Live at PressCorps World Headquarters, I'm Everett Way. It is day 249 of the 71st conflict. We're coming back to you after a small music break to continue reporting in this very, very eventful series of days here in conflict number 71. To cover some of the regions along the outside, starting in the east again at Tempest Island, Wardens are still pushing into the rush from the northeast and into Surge Gate from the north. It's a bridge battle on both sides. Many of the soldiers understand that bridge battles can be stalemates, as those natural ground choke points can be very hard to push across and hold territory on the other side. In this case, the Colonials have the defenders' advantage, if you will, of having their defenses already set up, their artillery pre-aligned and ready to defend. However, Surge Gate has seen many Warden landings, including even further south in the Isle of Syke, and earlier in the war closer to the Gale. We don't know if there are any further plans to take that offensive into other places of Tempest Island. The current fight is centered around the Rush, or more accurately, the islands in between the Rush and Alchemio Estate. In Endless Shore last we updated, there wasn't much fighting, but Tuatha Watchpost and Woodbine, the town halls of each had been destroyed by several Colonial Special Ops units. Those towns have not been rebuilt. Usually when these special operations happen, they tend to stay down, not for a super great amount of time. It's usually only 5 or 10 minutes. It's actually rather unusual for them to stay down for this long. We don't believe it is by any act of colonial resistance, but rather that the Wardens, being so focused in their offensive in many different locations around the Mercy Valley, they have not yet had time to rebuild those areas. That said, it is not a front line, so I understand that the Wardens might not have that as their priority. This is pure speculation, for what it's worth. We don't typically like to speak for the factions, just report on what they are doing. In this case, there's not really much to report in those specific areas, so this is our PressCorps specific speculation. Moving south from that area in Allad's Bight, Skirvyshire fight has intensified. Last we reported, the Wardens were pushing down from the north and fighting for a rather long period of time, limited at the northern border of that town by the safe house and surrounding defenses. The update now is that the Wardens have pushed past that safe house, destroying it and one of the defensive structures in that area, defensive bunker bases, and are now firing close to the town itself, possibly directly on the town hall itself. We do not have a reporter on that front line, unfortunately. From all we have heard, it is a very intense fight with a lot of Warden tanks and armor pushing in, maybe even heavy artillery lined up in Skirvyshire to soften those defenses as they continue. If Wardens take Skirvyshire, it is the first major foothold into Allad's Bight. We have seen landings in the Stone Plank area, in the kind of northeast of Mercy's Whale, the major Logi town in that area. And those landings have been pushed off by the Colonials in the past, even if some of the areas have been taken and the defenses destroyed. That's a naval landing, however, which, as most people know, is much harder to actually hold territory. With this land invasion coming in from Iron Junction, Skirvyshire, if it is taken by the Wardens, will be an alarming progression in the war for the Colonials, one that they will need to respond to in much higher intensity than they are now. In the Bats, we were seeing an offensive by the Wardens. The Colonials were defending that northeastern bridge into the Bats, one of the very few ways to get onto the island itself. The 82nd Dreadcorps Legion taking responsibility for the push into the Saltcaps and Singing Serpents, both sub-regions currently owned by the Wardens. Since our last update, the Colonials have moved across the bridge and have established a base on the far side, or a tentative foothold at the very least. we're seeing lots of armor on both sides as the Colonials came dangerously close to losing their foothold there. When we last left, there was a update, if you will, a statement by the 82nd Dread Corps Legion. I'm going to read it back out again for those who missed it the first time. This is a statement by Commissar Avidus Andrastade. I believe that's how it's pronounced. I apologize as somebody who's from the southern regions. I'm not quite sure on the pronunciation of some of the Swedish names, so I apologize. It is meant in the highest respect. But his statement is as follows, quote, "Today, brothers and sisters under Callahan, we have showed this heretical filth that we will not stand for their presence, and we will pay any cost to clean their corruption from the veil. To the heretics still within the city of Baths, I say to you, lay down your arms, and upon my honor you shall be granted a swift death under Callahan's grace." Unquote. That was a statement by Commissar Avidus of the 82nd Dread Corps, referring to the Colonials still holding out in Baths. We reached out to some of the Colonial leaders for a response statement. While they are currently defending, we have gotten a small statement from some of the Colonial leaders of many different regiments, of Raid and of SIR, respectively. From many smaller statements, it seems that the collective answer to this is a simple no. We see their actions as a response as the Colonials move across the river in the northeast, securing that stronghold on the far side of the river. In Fearmore, as we have updated last, in the region of Lochmore, that is, the Colonials have been defending Fearmore from many angles, down from Westmarch in the northeast, as well as from the southwest, which is where we see the majority of the Warden offensive pushing in from Market Road and the two bridges to the west of Fearmore. Last we heard, the Wardens were pushing rather hard into one of the final defensive lines at Fearmore. The update from that front is the Colonials have pushed back and taken the fields out to that western road with an armor push. It is the mass-produced tanks that we see on the field there, storming the fields and pushing the Wardens back. It is one of only a few small victories in the idea of survival that is in the heads of every Colonial at the moment. There's still pushes into Fearmore, some from the east, some even from the north, as we are hearing of landings on one of the very few last areas to be attacked in that Fearmore fight. That fight is nowhere near over, even though the Wardens have been pushed out from that southwest area. The ground has not yet been reclaimed. It is still actively defended by soldiers. No defenses seem to have been put up just yet by either side. We will see how the Fearmore fight continues from here. In the region of Westgate, the town of Gallows, we last heard from Mothbeam Man, one of our Colonial correspondents there, telling us how the Colonials have pushed out the Wardens and down to the waterline there, the bridge in between the Gallows and Sanctuary. The Colonials last seen putting up an infantry fight going into heavy artillery and heavy arms defenses in the town of Sanctuary itself. We are still seeing more of that. It is mainly infantry pushing across a broken bridge there. It'll be very tough for the Colonials to gain ground with only infantry, with as much defenses as the Wardens have in Sanctuary, with the defenders' advantage that they have there with their established heavy arms. The Wardens are free to pursue offensives in other regions, as we have been seeing, or even in other sub-regions within Westgate itself. Notably, Handsome Hideaway is an island that has been taken control of by the Wardens. We did hear that there was a Colonial effort to push the Wardens out of Handsome Hideaway earlier in the weeks. That effort has failed. The Wardens still hold that island, the observation tower, and the shipyard at Handsome Hideaway in Westgate. But now we turn our attention to the Deadlands, where we want to focus a little more on, since the last update from the news, I want to report that the pits itself has fallen. Noted that Abandoned Ward and Callahan's Boot have not fallen in either side. It is very interesting. The Wardens have pulled some sort of special operation to destroy the pits. Usually when we hear these things, it's more with satchels and small infantry groups that are highly mobile. The report is that this was actually taken down with armor. For some path, armor was able to make their way through to the pits. The most likely cause of this was from Liberation Point itself, showing a glaring hole in the defensive line for the Colonials. There is more action coming from the Deadlands, and to cover that actions, we want to go now to Spots Blemish, who is one of our Warden correspondents for this conflict, coming to us from what I understand as an undisclosed location in Deadlands. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. The people who are operating this location does not want to reveal this location to the enemy due to its strategic importance.
I see, and this is not something that we normally do. We usually report from the front line and we're able to share, but given the operational security of this particular mission, it sounds like you have linked up with a rather elite, specialized group.
Yes.
What can you tell us about who you're with?
Their names are, the regiment is the 128th.
The 128th, I see. Usually from regiments, they give some indication of how they specialize in the regiment name, but it seems their enigmatic nature will stay just that for now.
Yeah.
So, from where they are operating, without giving away too much detail, what can you tell us about what this group is planning to do?
From what I heard, it's a planned coordination of a demolition of the city of the northern part of Abandoned Ward Plaza itself.
The plaza in Abandoned Ward. Last we had heard there were Colonial and Warden fights happening in the plaza and Pommel Annex, with armor from both sides trying to navigate those tight urban city streets in that area. And it seems that this group has their sights set on that as well.
Yes, but for a different reason. One, Plaza is well known for, mainly on the Warden side, as one of the toughest nuts to crack when it's fully built up. With tier 3 garrisons, with the town hall maxed out, and fully allocated supplies going in, the tier 3 garrisons and the town and the 2 safe houses on the side of the river is one of the toughest nuts to crack.
I see, and from all implications, it sounds like the 128th have a plan to crack that nut, as it were.
No, it's already been cracked. They're planning to prevent this nut from ever being rebuilt again.
Oh, I see. So, they have already gone through and demolished the plaza. It is Warden-controlled territory at this point, what you're saying. Aha, I see. And
with the newest artillery calibers, a new possibility has came up. With these guns are the second gun in the Foxhole. These are the second, if I'm correct, storm cannons are as well. These two artillery pieces have the same ability as a rocket.
Yes, we've heard that as well, that the light artillery, the heavy artillery, as well as the storm cannon itself, does have the capability to permanently destroy many structures.
Actually, correction, light artillery can't do it due to how weak the shells are.
We heard, I guess this is still a mixed report, we did hear that light artillery destroyed some of the garrison houses inside Abandoned Ward, but I guess that note is still up for contention. That's good to hear.
But they're planning, from what I heard, a planned leveling of the city.
I see, and they're going to be using a storm cannon or heavy artillery to do this.
Yes.
So wardens are looking to push into abandoned ward and then essentially level the plaza behind them. I'm curious what the strategic decision is there. Is this so that it's easier for them to push in later, or are they planning to build their own defenses in the plaza's place?
From what I know, it's more of a strategic decision. If the colonies ever retake the plaza, then retake Ward, they can't rebuild the plaza up. Only if I remember, the safe house structures are reinforced against artillery. Only rockets can destroy them. So it's basically strategic leveling, because in the rebels you can't build anything. It's just going to be a flat, empty space.
I see, and wardens will rely on their infantry urban tactics as well as whatever vehicles can easily maneuver.
With these buildings being completely level, they're just like almost flat. It's just their foundations.
I see. They are. There's not even cover for them to. This is the first time that we are seeing any hints of permanently destroyed structures in any of these conflicts. So viewers, we apologize for the minor amount of confusion. This is uncharted territory for not only the soldiers out on the field, but also us here in the PressCorps.
Yeah, from what I witnessed, the church in the city has been leveled, and that does provide some cover. It depends on what type of building you're leveling. With the smaller G houses that have barely enough room to fit like a couple guys that have firing directions in every angle, those are completely leveled. Some of the larger ones do provide somewhat of a cover. Depends on what size you're talking about.
I see. And you're saying that the 128th plan to level the entire plaza. Have they started in that, or
no? They haven't. They're waiting on. Currently, what I've heard, permission to fire.
I see. Do you have any idea of what is keeping that plan from happening? What they're holding?
Friendly troops.
I see. Okay. And for those who can't quite see the radio from back home, or if you're on another front line, or even if you're in a logistics truck driving around on the effort, the wardens have taken control of the northern half of abandoned ward at the Plaza and Pommel Annex. It does not seem that they have crossed the River Mercy, however, and there doesn't seem to be any attempts to move into Callahan's Boot either. So while Warden forces control the plaza, that artillery bombardment will not start, and of course fire on the Warden friendlies that are in the area until Wardens have moved into a bit.
From what I got confirmation, the leveling is about to begin soon. They're just waiting They're just waiting for some troops to come back from their base.
300-176.
From their spotting missions, for their permission to fire.
I see. For those just tuning in, this is Spots Blemish, Warden correspondent, reporting from the northern half of Deadlands at an undisclosed location. We say northern, all we know is that he is in Warden territory. We don't quite know exactly where, and no need to reveal that position at all. He is with the group, the 128th Regiment, who have requested that we do not reveal the location of where this is coming from. Are you able to talk to any of that regiment, Spots?
Yes, I can. I'm going to see if one.
Absolutely, and if you can't, I'd love a description for what's going on. What is it there?
We're on the final preparations to wipe something out.
They're on the final preparations to basically wipe the area out.
I see. Okay, it sounds like they're possibly very busy in the final preparation, so we won't bug them, but can you describe the local
Gun 1 reporting,
area?
all guns ready.
What do you see in that area?
From what I see is small bits of ward itself. Some bit. I'm not really sure if I want to disclose that.
Okay, understandable. We again, this is at the request of the 128th to not share too much information of what's happening. Imminently, though, it does seem like an artillery bombardment will start from the 128th. And from what I understand, this is the first heavy artillery bombardment not to destroy enemy emplaced defenses or even aimed at enemy armor or infantry, but this is specific. Oh, we have just heard that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the first shots in this heavy artillery bombardment. Whether that's, it sounded like multiple cannons going off, unless that's multiple storm cannons you're standing next to. It sounds like heavy artillery.
It's multiple cannons going off at once.
Well, guys,
I see, and in good fashion. Wow, that is loud. Even here in the PressCorps, almost blew out my eardrums.
Thank God I brought my ear protection from home with me.
Yeah, we need it more than now on the front lines. As I was saying, this is the first time that we're seeing artillery being used specifically to permanently destroy those garrison houses on the front lines. In the past, we've seen that used targeted directly at the enemy army, as it were. But this is the first time we're seeing it destroying structures permanently. How successful do you think this group will be? You're there live and you see their preparation. Do they seem pretty well prepared, or are there obstacles?
Yeah, from what I was taking a look around, they're well prepared to finally destroy. What I've heard from them before we went on air is that this is like any Warden's wet dream to level the plaza itself.
I see. Very, very focused on that specific objective. Is there anything else that you can share with us? I kind of want to leave this open because I know operational security is something that we want to protect here. Is there anything else we can share?
Not really. It's a coordinated effort right now, but I might be able to get down the hill and see the damage they're doing to the city itself.
Please do. Actually, that would be good to hear. And we hear those first couple shots. It seems that that first shot from earlier, if I had to guess, was some sort of ranging shot to make sure that they are on target.
Right.
For those who have not yet been a part of an artillery crew, one of the major changes to artillery with this most recent conflict, on top of increasing the caliber of shells and a separation between from the howitzer into light and heavy artillery, is an additional factor of climate. It's startling how much the weather has affected the war so far, even if it hasn't been seen super often.
Oh, the Great Western Snowstorm.
Absolutely, we saw a blizzard last several weeks on the western half, and on the eastern half we even saw a pretty severe rainstorm, thunderstorm happening in the Drowned Vale, Shackled Chasm, and the Shore area. One of the things that these weather systems bring, of course, is wind, which will affect that indirect fire. Any artillery has to account for the wind in both direction and velocity. It's made artillery a bit harder to operate from what we've heard from many of those groups that specialize in artillery, but they are up to the task, and it seems like the 128th is one of those groups that is up to that task specifically. We're hearing a bit of frontline chatter, some vehicles driving around. Spots, are you at the front line there?
Yep, I'm at the plaza right now. I've decided to take a look at the eastern part of the city from earlier. Yeah, these buildings are completely level. I see, like, I'm right now staying by the most northeastern G house. If you ever been to the plaza itself, you know these two northern G houses and the church itself. They're like completely gone, like removed. It's just their ruins, and I'm currently like in the ruins of the church itself.
I've been to that church actually. It's an interesting one, right in the middle of the plaza itself, and you're saying it has been reduced to rubble.
Yeah, I see right now the church roof. It's there, as well as that, like some of the ground level, like some of the higher level walls are still there, but it's mainly just reduced to rubble. And
to rubble, you say?
Yes.
I see. Devastation being brought to the plaza in the Deadlands. Again, for those tuning in, we are at the plaza in Deadlands. There is a Warden push from the north into abandoned ward currently. It seems that, or at least from what we see on the radio here, a push on the bridges in abandoned ward is happening currently. There is a group that call themselves the 128th, whose job it is currently, self-assigned, is to level the plaza, by their words. They want to reduce all of the garrison houses and that. Oh, it sounds like we have a little bit of that right there. Their task at the moment is to reduce the plaza to pretty much its bare foundations. We're seeing the church in the area, some of the garrison houses. What else do you see on that scene, Spots? Spots, are you there? Our Warden correspondent, Spots Blemish, seems to be having maybe a small amount of technical difficulty here. We usually hear noise as they're on the front lines, but it seems like whatever patch we had has been cut off. It might be possible that some of that artillery bombardment got much closer than he was hoping for there. And that does tend to happen as our reporters are on the front lines. We put ourselves in the path of fire in order to get the most up-to-date news for all of our listeners. We're going to cut away from the plaza now and wish the 128th their best, as well as the Colonials their best in what will soon be a defense in abandoned ward. There are many defensive holds that the Colonials are participating in at the moment, anywhere from the Gallows, Fearmore, soon abandoned ward, the Baths most notably, and even Scurvyshire, which we have an update. In the time that it has taken for us to hear from Spots himself, Scurvyshire has fallen. That town has been destroyed by a combined artillery and tank push from the Wardens. The offensive has cleared Scurvyshire of its defenses. The Wardens have since taken Scurvyshire for their own and are continuing to push south. There is a small line of defenses between Scurvyshire and Rumhold, as well as Homesick. It is a small, narrow passage now that they have broken south of the bulwark. This is one of the very few places that the Wardens can push south of the bulwark. The Colonials pulling everything they can from Mercy's Whale to hold that line. We'll try to get a reporter on scene. It is the most breaking news at the moment, the taking of Scurvyshire in this very eventful day on the 71st conflict here in the Mercy Valley. It's day 249 here at the top of the day, just about noon. And we're going to go to a small commercial break. By commercial, I mean music break, of course. We're going to go to a music break as we reposition our reporters and see what we can get on the front line. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, thank you for tuning in. We will be back short after these few songs.